beginning of June here in Phoenix, and my roses are starting to put on their second flush, kind of their second flush from spring into the beginning of summer. And I did want to do kind of a video just showing how my roses look in their second flush. Um, I don't think they do as well here in Phoenix for their second flush out of spring. The roses definitely get impacted by kind of the heat of the Phoenix summer, and even though I think it has been cooler lately than usual, cooler here is still in the hundreds. So the roses, I think, are definitely impacted by this bit of heat, and so the second flush from spring into beginning of summer can be a lot different. The performance can be a lot different. So I did want to show you how mine were doing and kind of show you some definitely like the heat and will put on a lot more blooms and buds than some of the other roses. So I'll show you some of the roses that I think are doing better and some that I know don't love the heat and they just kind of tap out at this time of year and just hang out until it cools down in the fall. So I personally have no problem with the roses just taking a break and chilling out for their second flush and just kind of doing what they want. So with that regard and with that said, I'm not fertilizing, I don't deadhead everything, I don't trim up everything from the first flush typically. I will do a little bit here and there, but it's not high on my priority list. I only really focus on getting the water to the roses from kind of June into, end of summer, so September here. And my approach to my roses is kind of more like live and let live, I guess. I don't do a lot of babying to the roses, so I think my roses probably could do better. They could have a better second flush than what they've got happening right now. For instance, a lot of my roses right now have very small growth. The foliage is very small, the buds are very small. And for me, that's okay. I don't mind. It is warming up and the time spent outside is getting, shorter and shorter. So for me, I don't mind this. Now for you, you might want to baby the roses. That way you can get a better second flush, and that is kind of, up to you and how you want to do roses in your garden. And I think you could take either approach, but like I said, I kind of err on the side of I'm just gonna let them be. And I do want to show you that from that perspective, how the second flush looks, because I think a lot of people get intimidated by roses and just how much work they are, and thinking that they need to be deadheading, that they need to be fertilizing, and that they need to be doing a lot of stuff, and that roses are just out of reach for them. They think they're too hard or difficult to do. So like I said, I'm kind of just letting them be right now. It is warm, and I don't want to be overwhelmed by my roses. I don't think that's the point of having a rose garden. I think it's to enjoy yourself. So like I said, I have not fertilized. I've barely pruned. I've done a couple deadheads, but barely. And just getting the water. And so I'll show you how my garden looks with second flush with minimal effort. And over here I have my distant drums. This one was the first to bloom, so I'm a little surprised it didn't get going a bit faster on its second flush. I feel like normally it does. You can see I did not deadhead at all on this one from the first flush. And down here I was noticing, it's pretty exciting, I've got a new really good shoot coming off the base of the rose, so that's pretty good. There he is coming off the base, so that's pretty exciting. So here we are. This is my distant drums rose I was showing. This is like, a week or two later. You can see the new growth has kind of started to bloom now. So the foliage, kind of grew in and greened up a little bit. This tends to be lighter than the rest of the foliage and smaller this time of year. Same with the little flower, it's teensy. It still has a really nice smell, so yeah, little cute flower. And this back here, this was coming off of that new shoot that I got. So it's kind of splintered and put on a cluster of buds, so that's pretty exciting. And over here on the other side of the garden, I have my other distant drums. This one you can see had been blooming, is on its kind of end of its second flush. And then the one next to it, this little vine, well no, it's not a vine, it's technically a ground cover. No, I didn't deadhead this, so it's kind of in the way. But this ground cover rose, this is its first flush still, technically kind of second flush. So this one actually took a bit of time to put on its buds and bloom, and then so it's blooming later into the season with my second flush. And here we have, I've got hot cocoa and love, and then the purple one back there is a lavender veranda, and then the red one way back there putting on mini blooms is another one of my ground cover roses. It's the same brand, it's the flower carpet rose as the pink one I was just showing. So this one's love. Love doesn't look as lovely in its second flush, but it's still cute. And next to love, I have this really pretty veranda rose. This one surprised me. This one does really well in the heat. This one's put on this whole thing, this whole cluster, and this growth down here. This is all, you know, part of its second flush. This cluster over here, same thing. This was second flush, and then it's still trying to put on new clusters. So this one is done very well in the heat. I'm pretty happy with it. And then over here is hot cocoa. This one's the buds on this one, or the flowers on this one, tended to be small even in kind of springtime, so they're little babies. But you know, it's still putting on like its clusters. Got a little cluster over here, and it's still cute. Again, this red one is my scarlet flower carpet rose, just kind of blooming later into the season. And then next to it I have this easy desert rose. So this one actually bloomed later in the season, and I was thinking it might take longer to put on its second flush, but it got started right away. So you can see I did not deadhead this one at all. I didn't trim this one up at all, so there's a lot of old things happening, but it did it right away did start putting on new growth and got ready to put more blooms on. The size of this bloom is pretty good. It gets some shade over here, so that might help it, but yeah, looking good. I think this one does well. You can see this one here is a little younger, so you can see it's starting to get smaller, and still good color, but yeah, they lighten up pretty quickly in this time of year. And here we have Doris Day. I'm a little surprised. Usually Doris Day does a really good second flush, but it's kind of taken its time. It's just got barely anything started, so we'll see if it gets this off before it gets really hot. But Doris, I did decide to deadhead, so I did clean this one up, and I just kind of threw the scraps down into a pile. I guess this is kind of my method. I like to kind of trim or clean up the roses or deadhead, and I'll kind of make different piles, and eventually, after I've done all of the deadheading that I would like to do, I rake up all the different piles and rake up some of the litter down there and clean it up all at once. So I guess that's just kind of my way to make it not so overwhelming if I do want to trim up and clean up everything. It kind of breaks it down into steps, especially since it's hot out. And yeah, if you live in Phoenix, you know what I'm saying. So this one over here is Doris Day. Again, this one's like a week or two later. And you can see it finally is starting to put on its second flush. Looks fairly good. I did deadhead and trim this one up, and that might have helped this one put on its second flush, get going on it. So this one's the True Bloom. So this one I've never had great, I don't think it's ever put on a great second flush compared to how it looks in its first flush, but it still puts on little pink flowers. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this one's usually a like cupped English looking rose, and then once it heats up here, it kind of just turns into what we've got going here. So here we have my Oklahoma rose. This is its second flush here in the desert. It still has a decent fragrance to it. It's just, you know, a little bit more compact here. And you can kind of see here, I didn't actually deadhead this one, and it did go ahead and put on clusters for its second bloom. And here you can see the foliage is getting a lot smaller, and so it kind of looks a little different than the springtime foliage. Not terrible, but it's definitely not the big glossy dark green leaves that come out in the cooler temperatures in the spring. And over here I have Ketchup and Mustard. This one just really likes to bloom. So yeah, covered in blooms. This is its second flush. You can see this cluster over here. This is all new growth that it's put on. I did not deadhead this one at all. That's why it kind of looks a little sloppy. I didn't trim it or anything. But yeah, it just will put on blooms. I think this one's pretty heat tolerant, so pretty good little rose for the desert. And next to my Ketchup and Mustard, I have my Blue Girl. Now this one never really enjoys the heat ever. This is pretty much what I expect out of it. It did put on this nice growth over here, and I think it's gotten a little buggy, which is fine. This one just doesn't typically perform into the heat, which is fine. It's just kind of the way it is. But you know, come in the fall, cooler temps, it'll look nice. Over here I have Grande Dame. This one, I think I need to spray this one probably. But yeah, again, I didn't deadhead this one, and it is putting on some clusters. I'm worried that the bugs might get to this one. I should spray it. But yeah, so just kind of typical second flush. I assume the blooms will be kind of small on this one. So that's just kind of a walkthrough of some of my roses putting on their second flush. So if this video was helpful, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.